Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana on April 4th, 2022. Well, this Saturday in Wisconsin, we had a brief snow shower, which made it sort of hard for some people to get along for Saturday, but in a way it was nice to see. So one day snow, now it's melting, and just a nice reminder that basically Mother Nature still is in control and that we don't know everything. So it's good to be humbled by knowing that nature still can surprise us like that. The thing is, on today's show, what I like to talk about is in the past I've written science letters on my typewriter, but recently my typewriter has gone kaput. Um, I'm still looking for parts to fix it because it's an old Smith Corona typewriter model 75. And sometimes I've been able to get parts through Amazon, mainly the ribbons and the age correctable ribbons. If anyone else knows some other ways how to get the age correctable ribbons and the ribbons, and maybe some other parts that might need to fix it, just let me know it on Twitter at Diana1A. So I'll do the science letter basically by video. The second part is I was going to talk about some new technology I acquired this weekend, and third part is a commentary. Well, to begin, let's start with the science letter. Um, in the science letter, as former chairman of emergency management planning for the Society for Computer Simulation, 1992 to 1999, as well as proceedings editor and guest editor for the June 1996 journal Simulation, in addition to being a researcher and presenter at many SES conferences from 1990 to 99 in intelligent thinking systems. A long thing to say. I like to present some thoughts in a science letter. Um, in my science letters, I observe things that go on worldwide, meaning that I watch news channels from different countries and in the United States. Like, for example, I do watch RT when I'm able to get RT, which I have been able to through the RT app on Android TV. And also, I watch Deutsche Welle, France 24, BBC. In addition, I read journals as National Review, also various magazines as Elle, Harper's Bazaar, Vogue, because many people think it's the magazine. They think, well, it's all about fashion. No, not really. There actually is quite a bit of social commentary in there. Fashion is one thing, but it's fashion, but also with social commentary. Even like when you look at fashion books um, by one person. Let's see. Let me just get the. Um, let's see. A survey of historic costume by two famous authors who provided costume design for the New York stage, and one of them received a award for her work. Let me just go get a name so I can say the name properly. Um, and the person I was going to is Phyllis Tortora. She received an award at the Tonys this year for her work on the New York stage and in fashion design. Also, she was a professor at a prestigious New York university. Um, and in the fashion history class that I had, we used her books as a source in the books. I actually have the fifth edition, and I actually have a second edition, which I keep basically as part of my collection. Well, observing the news reports on the issue in the Ukraine war that's going on. Um, Now, when you listen to when I listen to let's say CBS or ABC or something, I hear news reports from their perspective. However, I don't hear news reports from what I would consider an outside U.S. perspective, like Deutsche Welle, France 24, BBC, or RT. And I'm concerned about that because basically, even Edward R. Murrow, when questioned about his association with Friends, he had friends that were of different political ideologies and various philosophies. The same, um, the same with oh boy, who am I thinking about now? Just a minute. Well, the same as the person of Firing Line, and that started Firing Line. A name will come to me, but what happens, and also when I think of what Margaret Hoover's doing in Firing Line, how she has different people coming in as well. Oh, William F. Buckley. William F. Buckley. William F. Buckley is known to have many friends that basically were same as Ed Lerner, that were different political, ideological, and philosophical. But just because they had different points of view, neither picked their friends based upon a narrow lane. Just they had points of view, but there's something they shared other than just this political thing. And you know, what does that mean? Well, I mean, if someone just considers, getting the thing for a political thing, like, no, is it? Well, I really can't see anything on the side of me. My line of vision is 90 degrees. Is only 45 degrees at best instead of being 190. Now, what happens if you were to have a pilot fly a plane like this at just 45 degrees? Would FAA allow them to fly? No, not even Air Force anything. Because for the Air Force, you have to be able to almost 100, 210. Same with the FAA. You got to be able to go this, this, this. And but if the FAA won't allow pilots to fly with blinders on, why should we consider we know the full viewpoint when we listen to news that has blinders on too? It doesn't make sense to me because I remember growing up um, uh, in the 70s and that and late 60s and my parents were not hippies. They actually really working. My dad was a military contractor. He worked for a three-star general who was USAAF retired, as well as an automotive executive. My mother was a teacher, and they support civil rights. They had concerns about Vietnam, and even my sister did. And but the thing is, what happened though was my parents always encouraged us to read. Basically, no, pick out books, pick out titles that are objectionable. Like this is one that I'm reading now, and another one um, that I'm reading as well. Um, this one is Seven Dirty Secrets, and there's another one called When No One Was Watching. Now these I bought at Barnes and Noble at the when I go for a Sunday latte with friends. They have a book value where you can when you buy a latte you can get a book for $5. There's one other book I'm looking for in the book club that was about a first-hand account about someone who was in the Spanish Civil War with some new information which I'm interested to see next time I go out there. The point is, though, you should be able to see different perspectives. Just because you read a perspective that's something that one group says, "Oh, you shouldn't read this. This author is poo poo poo," and we don't recommend them. We don't do this and this and this. Well, it's your life. It's your decision. You can do what you wish. But to me, I'm old enough to know when people say, "Oh, this is poo, 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 poo." First thing I do is, where can I get that book? Where can I see that movie? I mean, there were many movies I went to that were just panned by the critics. They would, oh, thumbs down. Oh, why did they waste this celluloid to make this horrible picture? And what happens? I went down to the theaters and watched it. And when I went down there, the critics make you think, oh, you're going to be the only one in the theater, or maybe another person. Guess what? The whole theater was packed, and the reason why the whole theater was packed because many people said, "Well, we like to see for ourselves what makes this such a bad movie." or what makes this such a bad book, or what makes this such a bad newscast. And when they actually listened and saw with their own eyes, they listened with their own ears, and they evaluated with their own brain. Guess what? They thought, I don't understand what the critic was seeing. Well, welcome to he or she is welcome to have their opinion, but I don't see it. I actually thought it was a good movie, thought it was a good book, and thought it was a good reporting. And that's why basically I have a habit of regularly watching U.S. news in addition to foreign news like RT, Deutsche Welle, French 24, BBC, because watching it doesn't mean that necessarily that you support a point of view, but I prefer to see multiple perspectives, because um, when you just see one point of view, you see a line, or you see everything in 2D. But we don't live our lives in a line like in Flatland, or in 2D like in Flatland by Lewis Carroll. We live our lives in greater than 2D. We live our lives basically. We see things three-dimensionally. We conceptually think of things in 4 to 6 dimensions if you use the Einsteinian system, or if you go to string theory, um, as I endorse, conceptually think of things in physical existence, even philosophical and living existence, as 26 dimensions, and so as a string, where basically you could have a string like that. It's not necessarily linear, but you could have it bend. So basically, you can have another portion of bend, so you can have different intersections, um, and that allows for me to sort of see, well, think about things. Well, okay, well, one side says they see this, another side says they see that, report that. Okay, good. Now what happens is when I see the pictures, and also when I hear interviews with the people, when I hear interviews with the people, you can actually tell whether someone is reading the script, or whether someone is really saying what they truly feel. And that's why I value the interviews, because I like to really hear what they truly feel. And I'm of the type that I realize not everyone in the world should be forced to speak English or one language. I was raised in a multi-language family where we spoke actually Prussian, Polish, French, German, and later on in life, when I knew a friend in Amsterdam, I actually learned how to speak Dutch, and that. And so, to me, the issue of a unilanguage in a country or culture is something that's foolish. Basically, even when I grew up in Kenosha, and Kenosha is the same thing with the language that you mentioned. That also was Italian. So basically, when we went to get things, like we go to the store and order a bomber. Some people say, well, what's a bomber? You mean you're going to order an explosive device? No, a bomber is an Italian sandwich that's put on a roll about this big. It has about 4 meatballs with ravioli sauce. Very filling, very nutritious. Or like if someone says, well, I want to get mastacholi. Well, some people say, well, what's mastacholi? Is that noodles? Well, not quite. It's actually a special type of Italian noodles, normally prepared basically with like cottage cheese, or even like when people say, well, I like to get ravioli, but not the American ravioli. Well, American ravioli is like Chef Boyardee with the meat inside. A traditional Italian ravioli is ravioli with ricotta cheese and some spinach and other stuff inside. And again, when you live in a city, that's multicultural, you learn, not, that basically it's good to have multicultural, because you get to see that there's many things you can share, and stuff like that. And so, but the thing is, when we get into things where people say, well, everyone has to speak one language, or basically go back to the country where you came from, blah. No, uh, nowadays in the world is multicultural. The world is cosmopolitan. People in the UK before the invasion watched American TV programs, as do people in Europe. And and Sweden. And a friend of mine reminded me of the fact that many people in Sweden watch Good Morning America because due to the time difference, Good Morning America actually comes on at 2 o'clock in Sweden or 1400 hours in European time um, in Sweden. So basically, and the thing is, what happens, the Swedish government doesn't say, you're only supposed to watch things that are in Swedish and produced in. No, 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 no. And even with Netflix, with the one series that the current president of Ukraine did, when you watch on Netflix, there is English dubbing because even Netflix realizes not every show should be focused in just one language. So, you know, regarding this one Ukraine, what I would say to both sides is this: some ideas throwing it out there. First, you got to look freedom of language. So when people are visiting family and something, they have a right to speak the language of their choice without being beaten up, harassed, shot, killed, taken in by secret police. Point number two, freedom of press. The press has a right to interview people, whether one side considers it objectionable or not. Next, freedom of transmission. The press should be allowed to have transmission of ideas as the same way that scientists insist upon transmission of ideas across international borders. Fourth, let's calm down. Let's get rid of all this old style, Old Testament rhetoric. Well, this happened. I'm revenging what happened 200 years ago, 400. Guys, even in Star Trek in 1965 or 66, there's an episode where it showed Kirk on a planet, and they're meeting a special being who sort of was like a living lock. And what he did to test him to see how well their ideals meant, he had him set up in a battle fight some of his adversaries. But on Kirk's side was Lincoln, Sarek, who represented the Vulcan um, person of calmness, mediation, and also good leadership. And at one point, what happened was basically Kirk said, "Well, you're not saying this." He says, "No, but I am the image of Sarek." He says, "Can you please acknowledge saying?" He said, "Yes, I can." And then he said, "I'm sorry for not." He says, "Let's I don't worry about. Let's not. I understand the situation, and let's not talk about this further." Now, as intelligent people, that's what we should do. Let's not talk about these past things that happened further. Put it away. Even in 1995, when I met part of the Russian delegation as part of the SES conference in '95, we talked, and the Russian delegation came up to me and says, "Well, you're willing to work with us even with the Cold War." I said, "Yes." I said, "The Cold War's ended. Let's move on and forward." I took the same approach that my dad did when he was at UW. When my dad was at UW, starting in 1940 after World War II, there was a Japanese professor who was teaching there. And for a long time, he always sat alone. No one wanted to sit with him because people were still thinking, well, all of those Japs, what they did to us in World War II and such and such and such. And what did my dad do? One day, my dad came up to him. He talked with him, and the Japanese professor said, "Well, thank you for sitting with me." He says, "It makes it very hard for me to teach." And he asked me, "So, well, why did you choose to sit with me?" And my dad said, "I like your lectures. You're a very good professor. I just wanted to have coffee with you." And he said, he cried. He said, "Thank you." And the other thing, what happened, my dad says, the professor asked, "Well, don't you feel the same as your fellow student?" And my dad said, "The war's over. Let's move on and forward. The war is over. Let's move on and forward." And that was the philosophy that my dad taught me, and we always live by. We always, no matter how mean people would get to us, how hard people would try to hurt us, physically, mentally, emotionally, we always just moved on and forward because basically it's not good to have perpetual war or have this thing. Well, I'm going to avenge what happened that someone did to my family 200 years ago or 50. Um, oh, please. If you want, that's not civilization. that's perpetual warfare, and that's not going to help our planet. That's not going to help us live in the future, and especially solve environmental issues. And remember, we still have a pandemic. So, move on and forward. And I mean, I'm a scientist, but based on what I've seen so far with the Ukraine, there's 6 million refugees right now in various countries. Poland, Hungary, Romania, Slovenia. So that means there's 46 million people left in the Ukraine who are being pounded every day by this war. Boom, 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 boom. And some of them by trained military forces who follow a code of conduct, others by paramilitary forces, whatever the names are, nationalist or other things or something that don't. And it's like, part of the thing I think of the peace talks is basically is what is there really should be a discussion about what code of conduct do these paramilitary forces follow? Do they actually follow a military code that's equivalent to the Geneva Convention? Because right now there's accusations on both sides of war crimes and okay, the international human rights charter is a good step. Because finally, let's get what the facts are like on the old Dragnet Sergeant Joe Friday. Just the facts, just the facts, just the facts. But the main thing is for the people in the Ukraine, though. For Pete's sake, 46 to 52 million people being crunched every day, basically living in the basements, trying to get food and everything else. We're supposed to be a civilized society. Can't we just, during the peace talk phase, just agree for both sides to sit down, stand down? You can keep your lines or whatever, but you stop your firing, because even during the Korean truce talks, and finally when the Korean truce was declared, there was a case where once a truce was agreed to, both sides put the weapons down and fighting stopped at 12 noon or something like that. Can't we just do that, really? Because it's going to take at least 20 years for the Ukraine to rebuild, and the other thing regarding the sanctions, I mean, people in Europe and other places need to have the natural gas and gas and stuff like that, and what happens if they don't want to pay in rubles, then they're really going to be stuck May 1st if they can't find another source. And the thing is, when you have commerce, you have a way to talk, because it's like the International Space Station. When the one astronaut came down from the United States along with 2 cosmonauts, I was glad to see that cooperation space still existed, because it shows that we can still be civilized, still be professional. Why can't we do it in the Ukraine? I mean, yes, I understand some groups feel that they don't want what happened to them to be forgotten. I agree. I mean, I've seen Schindler's List, and I had 4 Jewish professors as well at Parkside, and I understand the thing. I've had professors that had the special mark on their forearm, and also where some of the family went to Israel. And okay, I understand that, but please, do we have to keep reenacting this battle? Can't we just find another way just to realize that not everyone is the enemy not everyone is the enemy. I mean, can't we just sort of say, look, yes, the Holocaust happened, but we're also moving on and forward with that, because even many musicians that participated, that were musicians and conductors in World War II that were stuck in Germany, after the war, they were allowed to continue their musical careers, and even in Israel, a famous conductor was finally allowed to perform in Israel after everyone realized that basically he was stuck like everyone else, and that he was willing to move on, and so please, let's move on from this, because sometimes I think some of this is due to old ethnic hatred, And it's time to put the ethnic hatred to the history books. Um, we don't need any more. I mean, I have a handbook of the Bible, and I read about all the old battles in the Old Testament. It's like, okay, that happened, but do you really want to keep living that type of lifestyle where one tribe battles another tribe? Not, I don't. I'm sure many people in Ukraine don't. I mean, because I saw one interview with a young mother with her daughter, and her daughter was taking ballet classes, and 5 days after they had to leave their home, the daughter was crying at night, and she couldn't even think of ballet anymore. She could only think of survival, and this was on both sides of a line. Whether you whether you're looking at someone in Kiev or whether you're looking at someone in Mariupol, there's on both two mothers, same story. What does that tell you? Well, I'll trust you to make the decision. But really, we can't keep doing this. And also with the sanctions, we got to drop the Treaty of Versailles thinking. The Treaty of Versailles thinking, which put harsh penalties on Germany as reparations, taking away colonies, trying to break Germany, humiliate Germany. That's what gave rise to the Nazi Party, and that's also what gave rise to many historians realizing that Hitler was right, that the Treaty of Versailles was too harsh, and also it didn't. Instead of healing the wounds of World War One, it poured salt in the wounds, which led to World War Two and the lies and despotism that came with the Nazi Party. So, with those thinking about policy, the Treaty of Versailles too, please drop it. No one wants another world war, and no one wants another Desert Storm, Desert Shield, or basically a prolonged Bosnian war in Europe. Especially the Ukraine people don't want it, and the Russian people don't want it. So, think differently. Think a different way. There are other options, and I'm a retired disabled scientist, so I can't travel much. I can do some YouTube things once in a while, like I'm doing now, but with my heart condition and other health conditions, it really limits my ability to do stuff. So this is why I just do these occasionally. Now, the second point, the second topic I like to discuss is I did buy some new technology this week. I said I'll save up, and I bought a new TV. I bought a, I'll show. Let me get the box. Hold on, let me get the box. I'll show you. This is a 32-inch Android Amazon TV that I put in my bedroom. The nice thing I like about the Amazon TV is that it has a very clear picture, very clear sound. Also, I can add different games and different things like Hulu, ESPN Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime. Let's see what else. Amazon Prime, a BritBox, Apple TV, as well as RT. And the reason why is because this way I can self watch from my bed, and if I want to rest or something like that, because sometimes I'd have to take naps during the day, so it's nice to be able to watch it from the bed. And what I do is basically just what. And the reason why I like that I can also get RT, because basically it's nice to see again international news from all perspectives, not just the European view, but also showing many countries as basically France, Germany, England, Russia. It's important because basically we have to see all points of view. And the other thing for me is I'm glad that basically it has an English channel audio stream so that I could understand it, because although in the past I was fluent in many different languages, due to health issues, my ability for language, multi-fluency in languages is diminished a little bit. I can still read in multiple languages, but speaking in multiple languages is still I'm not at the expert level that I once was. I'm a little bit below the expert level. So that's why I prefer to have the English the English channel or the commentators that can speak in English like that too. Although I can still understand some Slavic languages, just bits and pieces of it, and same as like with some things said in French or German, bits and pieces of it. Um, but but the point is, it's good to have this multiple perspective. And with this new technology, I'm glad to see that Android TV has kept an open point of view that people, to trust the people that if they watch different news sources, it doesn't mean that they agree. It just means that basically they want to just see what the perspectives is, and also trust people that they can make their own decisions and they'll make their right decisions. It goes back to the old Edward R. Murrow School, Walter Cronkite School, William F. Buckley School. For the third segment, I just would like to give a commentary. During these last few weeks, we really have seen how much we are in a link to each other. Some people say, "Oh, we can cut Russia out and we can find other ways to do things." Well, the Europeans did that, and they're finding out that basically that they can't because this actually today when I listen to foreign news, they're telling people in the European Union, "Oh, put on another sweater when you're inside the house. Don't use as many appliances. When you leave the house, turn your heat down." And what happens? They're facing a massive cold snap right now in Europe. And for many homeowners in the U.S. and in Europe, as other places in the world, when you're facing a massive cold snap and someone says, "Oh, you can turn your house down below 60 degrees," or let's see what that in centigrade. That's well, you could turn your house below 9 degrees centigrade and nothing worry. Then you come home, look in your basement, you have a foot full of water, and it may be electrified, so you have to call the city to shove the water outside house so it drains down. And then you look and you see, "Oh my God, my furnace is kaput, and I got to put a new furnace in, and you're freezing." And then what happens? You have to run the water so the rest of and so your other pipes don't break. And the thing is, it would have been interesting if people would have thought about all these interlinked relationships that they had with each other before this war started. Because we all are interlinked. I mean, no one country, no one culture completely gets everything from the one culture anymore. In the United States, for many years, they used to have a TV commercial. "Look for the Union label whenever you buy a coat, dress, or blouse. Remember the Union story, the Union story." And and what happens? That was that time when many people in the U.S. bought, where there were many things that are made in the U.S., including this top and everything. But now, if I were to look on the labels on this top and the scarf and the pants I'm wearing, what would I see? What would I see? Well, this was actually made in Vietnam. This was made in Bangladesh. Um, this was actually made in India. Um, these pants were made in Africa as part, even though it's a major brand. Um, and even with my computer, well, my computer was made in Austin, but my monitor that I'm looking at was made in China. Um, this mouse was made in China. Um, this calculator, let's take a look and see what it says where it's made here. This calculator was made. This HP calculator was made in Germany. So we are very interrelated to each other. And the thing is, right now, basically for the Europeans, they have an energy crisis. Actually, last time I heard it's a stage 1, but maybe it's gone to a stage 2. But the thing is, since basically Russia cannot process payments for gas and other things in dollars or euros, and this is a mean to punish them, but it's actually punishing the Europeans more. Let's just say, okay, well, pay us in euros, so that way we can process it, or maybe even pay us in yuan. However, though, is basically the Europeans couldn't make the payment on April 1st, so Russia gave them until May 1st to make the payments. But now the European nations are scrambling. Okay, where can we get the gas? Where can, guys, you should have thought this out before you did these Treaty of Versailles II sanctions. Sometimes understanding history is good, but when you misinterpret history, excuse me, that's not good for your people, and that's not good for the world. And also having everything told through the press basically is like, only allowing the press to say one side of the story. Like when I watch CBS, ABC, I hear one side. When I hear the foreign press, I hear multiple sides. Like Walter Cronkite, Edwin R. Murrow, William Buckley, trust the public. Put multiple perspectives out there. The public is not as dumb as you think. And also the public does not want to be manipulated or gaslighted either. But please, please realize that you're doing a Treaty of Versailles II, which caused World War II, because basically it was way too harsh, way too mean. And even historians agreed that groups that rebelled against the Treaty of Versailles II were right, because basically it was. But it took historians over 60 years to come to that conclusion. Let's hope we don't have to wait another 60 years. I'm sure there are other ways to solve this. And if you have to do it privately, fine, do it privately and then tell the press later like that. But don't put the people in the middle. You gotta act like civilized people, not as barbarians. And let's start acting like civilized people. So, and the civilized approach is not the sequel to the Treaty of Versailles, or as I call the Treaty of Versailles II. Well, let me know what you think. I prefer to receive messages on Twitter. So if you want to Twitter me at Diana1A. Also, the show site is ideaswithdiana.com. So IDEASWITHDIANA. So if you want to do that as well, both on Twitter. Well, let me know what you think, and I'll have another show in a short period of time.